And Jamie, we are live and recording.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Just want to let you know we are recording our meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Dr. Weed so she can give us a couple of quick announcements so we can get started.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Jamie. I just wanted to do a couple of quick announcements. If you're already on our PRSSA chapter update email list, you probably received an email from me earlier today to let you all know that the elections for our executive board for the next school year are now available through our Adobe Spark page. And that also contains an application link to apply for the executive board. We have 5 executive board positions available to our members. You do need to be a dues paid member of PRSSA to serve on our executive board. But we have our president, vice president, secretary, PR director, and treasurer position available for students who want to serve in a leadership capacity with PRSSA. I'm putting a link for that information in our chat room, so feel free to check that out. We hope that you will apply to serve in leadership with PRSSA. This is a great way to gain organizational leadership experience, and it's something that looks really fantastic on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile when you're applying for an internship or job in the PR industry. I also have a second announcement for our members. Next year, we are going to be competing in the Bateman case study competition. And this is going to be a first time for Kennesaw State University. It's a really exciting experience for students to actually create a local campaign for a national client. And Kennesaw State will be competing against, on average, 80 teams across the US. So this is going to be a phenomenal experience. Some of the past clients for the Bateman case study competition include the U.S. Census Bureau, the Campaign to Change Direction, Student Veterans of America, With Purpose. These are all nationally known organizations. And for the top 3 teams, there are actual travel opportunities for the teams to meet in one place and present the work of their campaign to a group of judges who are industry professionals and PRSA members. It's a fantastic experience. It'll be a 2-class sequence. One class will be in the fall, one class will be in the spring. You'll actually get 6 credit hours towards your PR major. So not only are you getting phenomenal experience, you're also ticking off the box to get your PR major. In addition to the information about running for our executive board for PRSSA, I'm also going to put an information link about the Bateman classes in our chat room. And also check your email. If you haven't received it, you should have seen an email earlier today about this information. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over for a bit of information regarding the Adobe Creative Jam, which just launched.
Hey guys, I am actually with Peak Communications, which is the PR student-run agency that we have. You can take that as a capstone course. Definitely recommend it if you're interested. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Adobe Creative Jam. I'm sure all of you are aware of Adobe and the Creative Cloud, but as KSU students, everybody has access to download all of the apps with the Creative Cloud. Kennesaw is actually Adobe's first Georgia official partnered campus, which is really exciting. Kennesaw's really put their money where their mouth is and investing in something that's really going to help students. So for this semester, for the first time, we're going to be participating in their Creative Jam competition, which is a thing where you can go in and test your creativity and digital literacy skills. This particular event is going to be using Adobe Premiere Rush. I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with Adobe Premiere Pro, which is Adobe's kind of signature video editing program. It can be kind of intimidating for oncoming users, but Adobe Premiere Rush is super beginner friendly, which is great for anybody that doesn't have a lot of digital experience with Adobe. And we actually have a workshop set up on April 1st. So if any of you guys want to tune into that, we can give you an introduction into how to use Adobe Rush. Super beginner friendly, really easy to learn. But for the actual competition, we have registration open until April 7th at 11:59 p.m. And the Adobe event is going to take place on April 8th. It's completely virtual, and the kickoff event is where they tell you everything you need to know about the competition. They give you a prompt for what you're working with. There's going to be guest speakers, and you're going to get some information from industry experts on how to use Adobe and everything. It's a really cool event and a really great opportunity. For prizes, the finalists, first place is going to receive a $500 Amazon gift card, fourth place $400, third place $300, second $200, or sorry, fourth $200, and fifth $100. And then all of the finalists are going to receive $50 Amazon gift cards, which is super exciting. I know we're all broke college students out here, so that's definitely a really cool opportunity. But I think one of the best things about this event is how you can build industry coveted skills for this. I am a PR student, much like all of you guys. And honestly, one of the hardest things for me as a PR student has been building concrete technical skills, because everybody in our field has great soft skills. We're excellent verbal and written communicators, but building these technical skills is really what's going to set you apart from your peers, and participating in the Adobe Creative Jam is going to be an awesome way to do that. So definitely check this out if you're interested. I will pop a link in the chat to a page that's live on the Radau website that has information about the Jam in general. And it has a link to sign up. It has a link to show you how to download the Adobe Creative Cloud, which you get free with your tuition as a KSU student. But yeah, it's just a really great opportunity for everybody to build technical skills. Registration ends on the 7th. The event goes live on the 8th. And you're going to have about a week to do your competition, which is going to be plenty of time to express your creativity, get out there, jam with Adobe, and have a good time. And we hope that you guys are going to be interested in it, because it's really great and honestly a super exciting opportunity.
Thank you, Zoe, for sharing about that. That sounds really interesting. So I just want to thank our guest speakers for being with us today. We have Joe Thomas and Paige Hale. I'm just going to introduce them real quick, and then they can take it away. So we have Joe Thomas, who's the founder of Controlled Burn Consulting, a boutique consulting firm based in Savannah, Georgia. And we also have Paige Hale, Senior Manager Communications at the Georgia Aquarium. So if you guys want to give it up for them, and thank you guys again for being here, and take it away.
You want to go first, Joe, or you want me to go first?
I don't know. Yours look cooler than mine, so you should go first.
Okay, I don't know about that, but sure. Hello, everyone. Like Jamie said, my name is Paige Hale. I'm the Senior Manager of Communications at Georgia Aquarium. You may or may not have been there in downtown Atlanta, but I am basically in the second in command for the entire public relations / communications department at the aquarium. A little bit about myself. I have my Bachelor's of Science in Corporate Communications from the University of Texas at Austin. And I actually came from professional sports. So I used to work for the National Hockey League, and I did press and media relations for the Dallas Stars. And then I did a few things with advertising, not my jam. And then moved on to the nonprofit world and kind of research and conservation style public relations, which is why I'm at Georgia Aquarium now. And I have been with Georgia Aquarium since 2015. So it's been a wild ride. I've gotten to do a lot of things that I can tell you about, a lot of interesting stories, a lot of fun animals to look at. But a little bit about what I do at the aquarium is I manage the day-to-day operations of the team. So the PR team at Georgia Aquarium does a lot of things. We naturally do public relations, so media relations, media outreach, media cultivation, pitching, all those types of things. We also manage all of the aquarium's social media channels. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a TikTok. So if you're not following us on TikTok, please go follow us, because we are so close to 1 million followers and I want to get there really soon. So we use all of those channels to communicate to our audience, which are people that are fans of Georgia Aquarium, past visitors, future visitors, and media. Media is getting a lot of their stories about us from our social media pages. We do all the content creation for all those platforms as well. So that's photos, video, captions, all that good stuff. We do all of that in-house. We have a videographer that does that for us on our team. We were very lucky to have that. And we have a producer that does all that as well. We also manage all the marketing events. So that those are events inside the aquarium where proceeds or portion of the proceeds go back to research and conservation. And there's a variety of different things that we're doing. COVID has dampened some of those, but we've been able to do most of them virtually or in different forms. So that's been great and wonderful to learn from. But for the most part, when I'm not doing the day-to-day operation and managing that team, I specialize in research and conservation public relations. So I take some of these really aggressively scientific journal publications that our research and conservation team does, or these field expeditions that they do, and I boil it down into something that we can communicate to our fans, to our audience, and to media. So I've been doing that for several years now while I've been at the aquarium. I go on a majority of the field expeditions with the team, and I usually take a videographer with me. Sometimes I take media with me, and then we can show people from the field what we're doing. It's really important to us at Georgia Aquarium because our mission is pretty straightforward, but it is to inspire the preservation of aquatic species worldwide. And so we do that through outreach here in Atlanta with the aquarium, the building that has 11 million gallons of water and hundreds of thousands of animals that you can come see. But we also do that outside of our walls. And we do that globally. So we want to make sure that what we learn at the aquarium, we can translate to animals in the ocean and that they're going to benefit, scientists will benefit, our climate will benefit, and vice versa. If we learn something in the ocean, how can we translate it back to the aquarium? And then how do we take that all the way down and boil it down so that you and I can understand it, an 8th grader can understand it, a 4-year-old can understand it? How do we do that? And that's how we use our different platforms. So I have a kind of quick video, I think it's like 90 seconds, about one of those examples of what we do. So we are involved in different types of research. So one of the big ones is our whale shark research, which I'll get to in a second. I'm sure you know we have a couple whale sharks at the aquarium. It's the largest fish in the ocean. And we kind of revolutionized how to care for those animals. So we go out in the field and we try to learn more about them because they're actually the most misunderstood fish in the ocean. We don't know much about them. We don't know how big they get. We don't know how old they get. We don't know exactly where they're mating and giving birth. So we have a lot of questions that we need to find answers to. But one of those other research projects that we do is bottlenose dolphins. So we have done this research project for well over a decade now. And about 2 or 3 years ago, in a cultivation of this project where we went through South Carolina, Florida, different areas in the South, we discovered that dolphins are incredibly sick in the ocean. And dolphins in zoos and aquariums are much healthier. And that's because they're not exposed to the toxins and the pollutants that are in our waterways. That is not good news. Dolphins are called the canaries of the coal mine for a reason. They're a sentinel species, which means that if something is wrong at the top of that apex predator food chain, it is going all the way down to the bottom. And how does that impact you? Because I like pragmatic communication. How does that impact you as a person going about your day? The food those dolphins eat is the food you eat if you eat seafood. So we're finding that there are things that the dolphins are eating in their seafood that is not great, and that means that we might be eating it too. That is super, super easy for me to say, but it is like 10 years of research, tons of scientific modeling and stuff that would be way too boring for this. So we needed to figure out how to communicate that. How do you communicate 10 years of research? So we did an animated video. You know, people are like, why wouldn't you just show real dolphins? Well, because the real dolphins in the ocean don't look that great, to be honest. So we made an animated video and boiled it down to 90 seconds, 10 years of research. So let me share my screen really quickly and I will show it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. Second. All right.
Dolphins in the ocean are trying to tell us something, and we need to listen. Researchers have been doing health assessments or checkups on wild dolphins in Florida and South Carolina. They looked at their health and compared it to the checkups that dolphins in aquariums and zoos get regularly from veterinarians. The results were concerning. Researchers found out that the wild dolphins they looked at, which represent dolphins in the ocean, had health problems. Dolphins have immune systems, just like us. Researchers found that wild dolphins' immune systems are really active to constantly fight off illness. Where do their illnesses come from? From pathogens or germs, parasites, tiny organisms that live on animals, and environmental stressors like pollutants that humans put in the ocean or contaminated fish. Dolphins are telling us that the health of the ocean may be in trouble. If the health of the ocean is in trouble, our health could be in trouble too. There's hope though. Researchers at aquariums and zoos are continuing to study dolphins and find ways to help the sick ones and keep the healthy ones healthy. Dolphins in aquariums and zoos don't deal with the same health issues as dolphins in the ocean because they don't face the same environmental stressors. These dolphins have healthy water and veterinary care, plus their food is inspected and clean. So how can you help? Reduce, reuse, and recycle items instead of throwing away. Refuse plastic straws, plastic bags, and other one-use plastic items, because marine life can become tangled and injured. Visit an accredited zoo or aquarium and learn about our ocean. To learn more, visit georgiaaquarium.org/conserve.
Okay, so that is how I boiled down a decade of research into a fun video, and hopefully you guys took something away from that. So that is kind of the nuts and bolts of what I do in terms of public relations for Georgia Aquarium on the research and conservation side. It's fun work, but it's also very challenging. This is lighthearted, but that's not necessarily good news. So how do you get people to care? And that's just as I said earlier, we boil it down to how does it affect you in your daily life? Another great example is I'm heavily involved with coral research and how we communicate our coral research to media and things like that. And I'm sure you all are well aware of the coral bleaching and stony coral disease that is affecting mostly the Florida Keys. The Great Barrier Reef is 95, I think at this point, 97% pretty much devastated. And how do you get people to care about that? It can be hard. You don't always get media coverage. You don't always get these big press opportunities, but you get to show people what you're doing. So my next video is just a tad longer. It's a couple seconds, I think, but it goes back to that whale shark research I was talking about. Let's see if, there we go. And this is how I communicated whale shark research in Indonesia. I did not go on this trip. Okay, I'm gonna asterisk this, did not go. So this was shot by a videographer who then cut this together for us. There are no words. There's no text on the screen. There is no voiceover. And that's on purpose because we wanted the visuals to speak for themselves. I'll give you a little background, but I'll let your mind kind of wander as you watch it. So this is a research project in Indonesia where a large aggregate of whale sharks is found. And you're going to see these big kind of net looking things, and they're called fishing wagons. And the fishers there in Indonesia feed these whale sharks. So they come because they know they're going to get a tasty meal. And we use that opportunity to do the first full health assessment on a wild whale shark, because these animals come right up to those fishing kind of trolleys, and we're able to safely take their blood, put fin-mounted satellite tags, measurements, do all of that while they're kind of getting like happy little bellies from these fishers. And then through that, we're able to add that to baseline data about whale sharks and what we know about them. So I will let you just enjoy for a second. sorry, that music is like way more dramatic than I remember it being. So it's like very Lord of the Rings-esque with whale sharks. So that is kind of two major research components that I've spent probably the last 5 or 6 years working on, boiled down into 2 videos. And it sounds like, oh gosh, you spent all that time on those 2 things, but it's been very rewarding because sometimes you get really great media opportunities. I worked with The Atlantic on this particular whale shark project. I've worked with CBS News. I've worked with National Geographic. I've worked with BBC, both on the dolphin and the whale shark project. And what I say that success rate for that is because we were able to take these huge projects and boil them down into the meat and potatoes of what people needed to understand. I do have another video, but it's very short because it's a TikTok. And I want to show you guys how these are long form. You can tell they both are on YouTube, but they were also shared to our Facebook and Instagram platforms. And then we did pitch them out to try to get some coverage. And we did, like I just mentioned. TikTok's relatively new for organizations. I will not pretend that we know how to do everything on TikTok yet. There are not a lot of analytics, not a lot of verifications that like there are with Facebook and Instagram, but it's a lot of fun. We have been experimenting. So we use it to have fun and to show fun, kind of fluffy content. We also take the opportunity to kind of horrible metaphor to kind of reel people in and use our fishing rod to get them into the Georgia Aquarium TikTok page through fun content. And then once they're hooked with that, we can then show them the research and conservation part of our organization and part of our mission. So you may have seen this. If you have, you can watch it again. But TikTok is a new platform that, for us at least, that gives us this opportunity. So this video, I'll hit play in just a second. It's one of those ones where there's music in the background and all that, but I'll tell you how we use this to our advantage after we watch it.
Wow, you can really dance. Wow, you can really dance. He went. They said we've both been dancing all this time. What a coincidence. Wow.
So, and I am done with this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you again. So that is Neptune. And Neptune is a California sea lion. He is one of our many California sea lions. Neptune is a rescue. So he, like many of our sea lions, so he came from California, and through the government, sea lions can only strand a certain number of times, and then it's, all right, we got to find you either a new home, or unfortunately, they will euthanize some of those animals. So we will take as many animals as we can, and luckily Neptune and many others came to the aquarium through a mass stranding event that happened a couple years ago. So we hooked people with that, and then people in media. So we get a lot of media hits and coverage from our TikTok and shorter videos like that. We're asking about it. And we use that opportunity to show people that research and conservation is important to our mission, but existing is, because we were able to give these California sea lions a second chance at life, and we were able to give them a home. And then we were able to talk about some of the larger issues facing California sea lions. Neptune and another sea lion that came with him around the same time, his name is Jupiter. They both had significant injuries to their flippers. One has bullet fragments in his head from where he was shot by someone. We don't know exactly what happened, but those are kind of horrible stories that you hear about how tough life is in the ocean for these animals. So they come to us, we patch them up, we take care of them, and then they get to live with us, and they get to be a part of our forever home, as we like to say. And now they are ambassadors for their species. So what you saw there is actually a training session, or an enrichment session. So that session is with a trainer, and if the animal wants to do it, that is awesome, and we will play and dance and do all that as long as they want. And if they don't, all right, they can go do whatever they want. It's a lot of fun to watch. So if you haven't followed us on TikTok, I saw someone in the chat said they did see it, so I'm happy about that. Feel free to follow us so that you can see stuff like that. But I have talked for quite some time and shown you a couple videos. So that is all I will say for now, because I want to give Joe time as well, and if there are questions later, but that pretty much wraps it up for me.
That was super cool. I love the aquarium. Hey, y'all, my name's Joe Thomas. And as Jamie said, I'm the founder of Controlled Burn Consulting, which is a unique boutique consulting firm that specializes in three kind of things, right? So helping very small nonprofits with very small staffs with and environmental nonprofits specifically with PR, communications, fundraising, and advocacy work. We work with small businesses who are interested in doing the same thing, some of the same things that huge Fortune 500 companies do in the sustainability world and the environmental world. They're looking to have an impact as well, but they don't have the budget and the staff to do that. And then with small governments and government agencies who recognize the importance of environmental leadership and conservation from a government standpoint, but maybe like the businesses and nonprofits that we work with, they don't have the resources to really do a lot of the work that big cities can do. So those are the three clients, for lack of a better word, that I work with. And I'll talk a little bit more about that work in a little bit. I'll give you a brief bio. I'm an Atlanta native. I grew up in Ormwood Park, which is right between Grant Park and the East Atlanta Village, and went to North Atlanta High School. And I studied English and professional communications at Southern Poly. So a lot of the folks that y'all might be taking classes from are the same folks that I took classes from several years ago. While I was studying at Southern Poly, I started interning at the Georgia Conservancy, which is a statewide conservation nonprofit that does a lot of really cool stuff in a lot of different areas, and spent time at the Georgia Conservancy both as an intern and as a paid staff member, and as a member of their Generation Green Board, which is a board of young professionals, an advisory board of young professionals there. After my time at the Conservancy, I worked a little bit in politics, working on a Senate campaign, and then came back to the environmental nonprofit world, first working with Trees Atlanta, which some of y'all might be familiar with. Trees Atlanta is an awesome organization that works in Metro Atlanta, preserving and educating folks about the urban forest in Metro Atlanta. And eventually, I made it my goal to take a leadership position in an environmental nonprofit somewhere in the state of Georgia, and had the opportunity to move to Savannah to become the executive director of the Savannah Tree Foundation, which is a smaller organization that does a lot of the same work that Trees Atlanta does, but does it in Savannah. So I moved to Savannah a few years ago. One of the things that I recognized, especially while I was working for the Savannah Tree Foundation, was that I was the only paid employee of that organization. And coming from a really big organization like Trees Atlanta and the Georgia Conservancy that has a large staff with very siloed roles for their staff, I found out very quickly that I was doing all of the work as the only paid staff member. So, I was doing the things that I was familiar with, fundraising and communications and PR and all of those different types of things. But I was also doing, the work that an executive director does and a program officer does. So I was the tree expert too, and I was the one that was out in the field. And I realized that it would be really nice if I had just one other person to help me out with some of this stuff. And that little idea turned into a big idea, which is that just because organizations and businesses and government agencies are small and under-resourced doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be able to do some of the same things that larger organizations and businesses and government agencies can. And that's kind of where this idea came from. So that's what controlled burn does, is offer those resources to folks that are under-resourced. When I was invited to do this talk, I started thinking a little bit about kind of, if I had any tips or tricks or cool stuff to tell y'all, as you are, I'm assuming that everybody here is here because they're interested in pursuing a career in PR or communications or maybe marketing or advertising or something like that. And probably you probably fall into one of two boats. Either you're at this talk specifically because you care deeply about the environment, conservation, and sustainability, and you want to figure out how to harness what you're learning in school and apply it to the stuff that you care about. Or you're interested in a career in PR, communications, marketing, something like that, and you recognize that because of the way that the world is working now, you're going to end up having to talk about sustainability, the environment, or conservation, just because that's what businesses are talking about right now, as they should, because it's important. And so I kind of wanted to approach it from two different perspectives. And one of those perspectives is something that I used to talk to college students a lot about, which is that any job can be a sustainability job. So this is for those of y'all who are really interested in actually using your career to have a positive impact on the earth. While a lot of organizations and governments and businesses are recognizing the importance of conservation and sustainability and things like that, the number of jobs that are out there with those responsibilities specifically attached to them is still relatively low. There are more and more every day, but it's still relatively low. And I think that can be really discouraging for folks. You want to find a job that's going to let you both do what you're good at and do it for a good reason. But maybe you can't. Maybe you end up working at a big corporation and sustainability is not part of your job description. I think it's really important to not be discouraged by that. I think you can get in, get in where you fit in is something that I say a lot, right? And so, if you end up at Deloitte or if you end up at Coca-Cola, but you're not in the Coca-Cola sustainability office or something like that, that doesn't mean you can't do conservation and sustainability work. Recognize the need and do the work to fill the need. And that's, I have a friend who did that, exactly that. She went to go work for Deloitte for non-conservation reasons, but she cared so much about sustainability that she made herself the person that went around and made sure everybody was recycling and things like that. And that eventually spiraled into her getting a sustainability job. And I just think that's wonderful. I think it's incredible. And she didn't lose her passion for the work. And it was just such a great testament for how, to a certain extent, you can carve out a place for yourself, in places where you end up working. The other thing that I thought of when I was thinking about what to talk about was, I encourage all of you to work for a nonprofit at some point. The really, really great thing about working for a nonprofit is that everybody does 2 or 3 different jobs. No matter, even the big nonprofits, everybody does 2 or 3 different jobs. And so when I started working for nonprofits, my job was largely development, fundraising, grant writing, things like that. But you can build incredible relationships and take on extra tasks that will really help you flesh out what you're good at and make yourself really well-rounded as a person. So if you are passionate about the environment and conservation and sustainability, spend some time in an environmental nonprofit, build those relationships, and also lean into those second and third and fourth tasks that you're inevitably going to get, and really learn from. Earlier when Zoe was pitching the Adobe Jam, I was like, everybody should learn Adobe. I learned it. I took a class at Southern Poly where I learned a little bit. but at Trees Atlanta, we didn't have a graphic designer or anything like that. And I was like, I took one class, let me mess around with it and see if I can do it. And I figured it out. And, you know, through the magic of Adobe and Canva, I was able to make myself the default graphic designer for the office. And then I learned more because it was my job. And then it kind of just turned into something that I could put on a resume. And that was really cool. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit too is something that you might run into if you do end up working for a big corporation. And this goes for folks that are really interested and passionate about sustainability or not. I don't know to what extent y'all are talking about this now, but greenwashing is a really big deal. And it's become the role of PR people and communications folks to, as it is everywhere, your job in a large part of your job is to make whoever you are working for look good. And you'll probably at some point, unless you're working for like a real cool, authentic, like down organization or business or something like that, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to be asked to talk about the sustainability bona fides of your corporation when you know for a fact that they're, while you're in front of the building talking about it, they're in the back of the building dumping stuff in the river. That's tough work to do. It's really, really, really difficult. And you can feel like you're selling out, and you can feel like, that it's hard to sleep at night. And I think, part of being in that role and caring about those issues is being an advocate from the inside. And I know that, you don't want to ruffle feathers, especially early in your career, and it can be tough, to speak truth to power. But asking questions is never a bad thing, and learning from those experiences is not a bad thing. If you get fed up with it and you want to do something else, you can always change careers. Before everybody got on here, I said that my path was a weird one, and I believe that. I've jumped around from nonprofits to political campaigns to working for, working at a restaurant, working at bars. All of those jobs are an opportunity to do the important work for conservation and sustainability. So, greenwashing is an issue. It's something that y'all need to think about as you go into especially if you're going into the corporate world. But also if you're going to work for government agencies, take a hard look at what they're saying and is it really right? Eventually it's going to be incumbent upon you to change those attitudes. Even if you're working in the communications office, once you work your way up, it'll be your role to say, yeah, we can go out and say this, but we're not really doing it. That's not an effective PR strategy to say that you're doing something that you're not doing. So that's those were a lot of thoughts that I had rattling in my head before we started doing this. I know it wasn't really organized or anything like that, but I feel like it's important to pass, some of those nuggets along, because, we're gonna change the way that things work here, and y'all are gonna be the folks that do it. So those are my tips.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing today. Before we open up like a Q&A, I did have a couple quick questions. One that I had for you, Paige, was, do you focus on the conservation side of the aquarium more than like PR for like getting people into the aquarium kind of thing? Does that make sense? I just want to make sure I understood.
Are you talking about me personally or the team as a whole?
I guess you.
So I spend the majority of my time doing research on conservation, public relations, but because I manage everyone kind of below me, they do some of the, since we are a nonprofit, we do need people to come through the doors in order to keep the lights on and the animals fed. So we do some of that PR, It's not as heavy-handed as you would think, because we're very fortunate because we have an international brand. But for the most part, my time is spent on field expeditions, research and conservation, that type of stuff.
Okay, great. And then real quick, my other question was, if you guys could just both describe like a typical day. I know that's sort of impossible for most jobs, but just sort of describe a little bit about what tasks you may have on a given day.
Yeah, I guess I could talk. I'll talk mostly about what I do now, I guess, instead of working for an organization, because it differs a little bit. Stepping out on my own and starting a contractor role made generating work for myself like the number one priority. So I was lucky because I had spent enough time in the conservation world in Georgia where I had pre-existing relationships. But going to businesses and going to county governments and city governments and going to small nonprofits and saying, I almost 100% know that y'all are struggling with X, Y, and Z. I can help you with that. That was a lot of the work that I did at the beginning. And then after that, it totally branches out into really project-based work. So, maybe I'm helping a government in South Georgia write a new tree ordinance. Maybe I'm helping a small business who wants to start an oyster farm navigate DNR regulations. Maybe I'm just managing the social media calendar and email newsletter list for a small nonprofit. It's really the other thing that I would tell you to learn outside of Adobe is some sort of project management software that you like. It helps me organize everything when I've got multiple clients and multiple projects going on. Have some sort of platform that helps you keep stuff organized. It's a lifesaver. But yeah, I mean, that's my daily work is really varied, but at least at the beginning, it was hustling.
Yeah, so it's a complex question for me too. For the most part, I would say I spend a lot of my time managing my team, so figuring out what the day looks like. When you start out in public relations, you're going to do a lot of the boots on the ground stuff. So speaking from solely the Georgia Aquarium perspective, I started at an entry-level position and worked my way up into management. So I was doing all the writing, all the pitching. I was doing all the media relationships, all that stuff. So now I am kind of shepherding my team through all of those things. I also proofread anything that comes across our team and through the aquarium. So if you saw it on social media, my eyes looked at it. So I spend a lot of my day reading and double checking things holistically for public relations and social media. And then some days I am on, now with unfortunately COVID, I'm on Zoom calls talking to different agencies, whether that's Georgia Department of Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, about various projects that we're doing with our research team, and getting information and going through red tape, things we can and cannot talk about, and things like that. So it's very varied. And when you work in PR, I think anywhere will be somewhat varied.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Dorothy, I think she had a question next.
Hi, okay, so I have a quick comment for Joe. I just want to thank you for saying that, because I know you thought that you were unorganized and scattered, but we always talk about ethics in class, but having the real stuff being talked about, we don't usually get to hear that. And as someone who's very concerned about ethics, I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of our guests are corporate and we don't get enough nonprofit advocates, I'd say. And then going on to Paige, I have a question. So I currently work in the Office of Research here at KSU, and I have slowly kind of grown a love for research, and I've actually done undergraduate research, and I'd like to continue doing more technical writing. And so I didn't even realize that your job was so heavily research-based. And I was just wondering if you have any advice for pursuing more technical communications and how to kind of keep in that research-based role going through PR?
Yeah, so in full candor, it's something I kind of fell into. The way that I fell into this, and my suggestion for you would be is to absorb as much as you possibly can. So read other technical writers, or read other agencies or other areas where you like their research. You know, maybe it's not research or conservation in the aquarium or marine field. Outside of my day job, I'm a huge history buff, so I read history like it's going out of style, which it never will. So if you read because you want to find your own voice, even in technical writing, so you're not going to use the same style of writing with creative writing or even in a press release or things like that. So you really have to practice, and people are going to critique your writing, and it's going to be hard sometimes. There were times early on at the aquarium where what I like to call is like the paper was bleeding. And I was like, I'm never going to be good. Oh my God. But as you absorb things and you practice, in order to get into technical writing, you kind of just have to take it by the reins, depending on where you work. So at the aquarium, nobody did what I do now from the PR perspective. And it's what I wanted to do. So I started taking things in writing. Technically, I was writing press releases about research projects. I was writing kind of abstracts almost about what the journal publication was, and boiling it down to a one-pager, including media kit type stuff like photos and contacts and stuff. So that's how I kind of got into it. And you'll find that when you create a hole or create a niche for yourself, people will open the doors further for you. It's when you show an interest that people are more willing to kind of go, you know what, we don't have a technical writer, or we don't have someone that can understand this the way that he or she can. So that's what would be my suggestion to you. Do not be afraid to take something and go ahead and make it your own and write it the way that you want.
Thank you.
I think Beth had a question next.
I actually have a question for both of you guys, but first, Joe, what platforms, like project management platforms, do you recommend using? Because I'd love a little bit more organization with my tasks.
Yeah. For my own personal sanity, I use Trello because it's free and easy, and it's just super helpful. And then there's so many different like collaborative platforms, you know, and for me it really depends on the hardest part about collaborative project management platforms is getting everybody to buy into it, right? So my easy answer to that is just whatever you can get people to use. I've used Basecamp for stuff, and that's worked pretty well. Trello's got a little bit of collaborative stuff that you can do. It's not as good for that. But yeah, I would suggest just looking at a bunch of the free ones and seeing which one you like the best. And get familiar with that and use it to keep yourself organized. And then if you need to collaborate with folks, see if you can get them to buy in to the one that you're already using. If not, there's some other good ones out there. I would say start with Trello.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
and then also Paige, okay, what was I gonna say? Oh, yes. Did you create the videos yourself? Or I know you had some help with BBC and National Geographic, like for the imagery and stuff like that, but did you put it together? And like, what platform did you use?
So no, I can't edit. I can't do any of that.
Me neither.
So no, I didn't. But what I do on my team is I storyboard it. So I'll put out what I want in the video. And if it has text overlays or voiceover, I'll write the full script for it. And then I'll put what visuals I want to see. I would probably say 85% of the time I was physically on the trip. So I know what happened, what interviews I got. So I don't necessarily have to sit through 80 hours of footage. So I keep on my phone when I travel and I'm on those trips, I write down where I was and the date. And so that when we go into the camera and into the footage, when we've date logged it, I know, all right, I did this on March 17th when I was in the Bahamas, and that is the interview I want to use. So I can put that in the storyboard. I give that lovely document to our videographer, who's also our editor. And then they go through and they just make it for us. We do our revisions if there are any. And then that's how it's born. And then the videos that you saw for the most part went on social media. So they are, in terms of the ratio, they follow Facebook ratios, IGTV, which is a pain to format, Instagram, Twitter, and then for media, we give them all the ratios so that if they have a different platform, they can use whichever one works for them.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to do a quick photo. We like to do a photo at the end of every meeting. So if you want to be in the photo, go ahead and turn your camera on, and Dr. Wee's going to take that screenshot for us. Oh, we can't hear you, Dr. Weed.
Sorry about that. I was going to do the screenshot and then I realized you weren't hearing the instructions. So I always try to get 2 pictures just to have a backup. So we will go 3, 2, 1, PRSSA. And we'll go ahead and grab the second one. Feel free to do something different. 3, 2, 1. Okay, awesome. We are good.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much to both of our guest speakers for being here today. It was really great learning about the work you guys do, and I enjoyed it a lot. And we appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our members for coming today as well. You guys all have a great night.